Well, a day after we saw French culture in all its glory, whether be it a beheaded Marie Antoinette, whether we saw parkour on the rooftops, you had all sorts of things. Everything French was, highlighted in the opening ceremony. The first day of the Paris Olympics it's almost about to get over. We are still waiting for a couple of last minute results to get over. But the first episode of the Pod of the Rings is being recorded before day one of the Paris Olympics gets over, only because our man in Paris, Mihir Vasavda, is kind of getting late to get to his hotel because, well, the man's got to sleep, right? Because he's been kind of churning out one 18-hour day after another. Well, India, by the way, to our listeners tomorrow, India still has not won a medal yet. So the first day has been kind of a dry day, although Mihir will disagree. He's spent a lot of time getting kind of drenched at the opening ceremony. Mihir, welcome to Pod of the Rings, the first episode of Pod of the Rings in a sense. So you've been to Tokyo Olympics 3 years ago. Now you've been to Paris Olympics. Just talk to us about how the mood on the ground was kind of different, no?
The biggest difference, Amit, is of course the crowd. The first day, the first official games day, of course, is on Saturday, but we saw a few matches, rugby, sevens, and football, and a couple of other archery matches and stuff taking place a couple of days ago. And the biggest change was having crowds in the stands and that familiar roar, every time something exciting happened. So that was, I think, the most spectacular part. And right now at the opening ceremony, we are seeing that the weird thing was how empty the stadium was and how quiet it was while everything was happening about the opening ceremony. And here you've got 300,000 people along the banks of the river Seine, which is incredible. 3 years ago, क्या पता हमने कितने सारे scenarios सोचे रहेंगे about how the world will look. At least one thing that we now know is that it will look more or less the same or even different given how Paris has changed, how opening ceremonies of the Olympics will be going ahead in the future. The other big difference is how kind of minimalistic these games are. They have of course cut down on a budget massively compared to what Tokyo spent. I think Tokyo spent around 30 billion. Paris has around $9 billion, and you see those budget cuts almost everywhere, from the kind of facilities at the stadiums to the village. Athletes have complained about food shortages. We heard that Rafael Nadal kind of walked up to the food stations and buffet line and they ran out of rice by the time he reached his station, and there was nothing. So yeah, that's the big difference over here.
Yeah, but Mir, the reason why I spoke about you getting enough sleep earlier was that I hear you've had quite an adventure today. Like you've been functioning on 3 hours of sleep and 2 hours if you count the sleep that you got on the train. Just talk to us about, waking up at, I don't know what time you woke up to get to Châteauroux shooting range where the Indian shooters were. Well, they almost disappointed us because we had our rifle shooting mixed team pairs who kind of crashed out, did not make it to the final. And just when it started to look that it was going to be a completely dejection-filled day, just like we experienced at Tokyo, you had Manu Bhakar qualifying for the 10-meter pistol finals. That kind of salvaged your long journey, right?
Just the journey from Châteauroux railway station to the shooting range is in itself quite complicated. Now, Châteauroux is a very kind of tiny village compared to Indian standards. It is rather an American military base, and there isn't a lot of anything else over there. सिर्फ छोटे-छोटे घर हैं और एक बड़ा सा वहाँ पर एक shooting range है जहाँ ये हो रहा था. So you had to be basically quite punctual to reach everywhere, and that's something that I'm not. तो हुआ ये कि हम वहाँ पर well in advance पहुँच गए थे before the first match. Thought किया चलो एक कॉफ़ी पी जाए, सुबह 3 घंटे रात को सोया है, सुबह जल्दी उठे हैं तो एक कॉफ़ी का शॉट तो बनता ही है. And we went to a cafe there. Turns out we missed the first bus. And उसके बाद हमारे जो ड्राइवर्स थे वो कहीं नाश्ता करने चले गए. And long story short, we had to wait for around, I think, half an hour or 45 minutes for another bus to come and then reach the venue, only to then, Amit will be knowing that dreadful feeling of seeing an Indian athlete not doing well at an Olympics. It was kind of sad because, you looked at the faces of those shooters, all four of them in the mixed team rifle events. They tried their best to look okay, to not look disappointed, but you could see it in their eyes, that especially with Arjun Babuta and Ramita, they came close. 11-2 was disappointed. She looked disappointed. They'll, I think, be spending some time away from shooting and thinking about today's match and get ready for their individual matches on that begin in a day or two. Manu was a big savior, salvaging the day. I personally feel that she's been looking quite solid, not just in terms of, the kind of shots she is scoring, but just her change in personality. I think that is a big difference in the way she carries, and the way she kind of walked into the arena today also full of confidence and a certain kind of amount of swagger, the way she went about her things. Not a surprise that she's entered the final. It would have been a surprise if she hadn't entered the final. I'm very keen to see how she goes about it tomorrow. Let's keep our fingers crossed for the first medal.
Right. Only Mihir could go to a French village, which is good enough for the Americans to build a military base in, and kind of dismiss it by calling it a tiny village compared to Indian standards, and saying things like, "अरे छोटे घर है वहाँ पे और एक सिर्फ एक shooting range है और कुछ नहीं है." Well, but ठीक है, Mihir anyway is going to go back to that shooting range tomorrow to hopefully watch Manu Bhakar win a gold medal. But I think this is a great time to bring Vinayakk Mohanarangan into this conversation. Our man has kind of, the word I used today was indefatigable. That's exactly what he has been. He's been running a live blog since, I think, Vinayakk, you started the blog at 11 and we are recording this at 1:45. I think he's just finished the blog.
Yeah, the blog is done and dusted now. I'm not going to add anything more.
Oh, but in 7 or 8 hours, you get to do it again.
Yeah. Another nice and early start tomorrow. More shooting and more badminton, more table tennis. Lots to look forward to. Yeah.
But hockey first.
Right. Yeah. I guess it was, what Mihir would call a proper Indian hockey performance, I would say. Conceded early, then, somehow clawed the way back to lead 2-1, then concede the last minute 2-2, and then not last minute, but concede late for 2-2, and then in the last couple of minutes, Harmanpreet gets a penalty stroke and India win 3-2. Mihir, what were your thoughts as our resident hockey tragic on that crazy match that you saw?
Hockey, यार कहाँ पर अभी शुरुआत करें हम? These guys, they really won't give us a straightforward, simple win anywhere in a big tournament, right? But I guess Vinayakk will agree. This is something that we have spoken about. This team doesn't look well settled, and in that context, this is a very, very big win, because if they would have dropped 2 points over here, I don't know how comfortably they would have made the quarterfinals over here. This was a match they had to win. If anything, it will just give them a lot of confidence for the next 2 matches against Argentina and then Ireland. These 3 matches, if they win, India will be kind of assured of a place in quarterfinals. And they, of course, end the group with Belgium and Australia. So that's not going to be easy to leave it till late. I am kind of concerned about how easily New Zealand split open the central areas of India's defense and midfield. I think for the amount of focus Craig has been giving to defense, it remains the biggest area of problem, and it is very tricky. If your entire focus has been defense, at least the defense has to be good. And if this is how India are going to play against bigger teams, then God save them. Well, at least it was a job done. It wasn't a job well done, and it won't matter as long as there are wins coming. At a tournament like this, I don't think anyone should complain. The fact that India, the other way kind of look at it is, it was a tricky match. They were the second best side throughout, and still they managed to win. So if you're looking for some positives, that's the biggest one.
Right, yeah, I agree, Mihir. It kind of doesn't give a great picture on how India are going to improve their showing from Tokyo. But, this is exactly kind of what we said on the blog as well. A win is a win is a win. So that's kind of what I think Fulton and Harmanpreet would see it as. I think there were a few positives in terms of Harmanpreet getting his confidence going early in the tournament with a score. And 3 goals against a decent New Zealand side is not bad, but defense is definitely a concern, and the midfield too. So let's see how they bounce back. Plenty of hockey to look forward to. So we'll keep talking about that as we go along.
And the vagaries of covering an Olympics has already affected us, Vinayk, because our dear friend is no longer, I mean, thoda sa grim sound kar raha hai, but then he's left our pod ka recording right now because I assume he's entered into some sort of a black hole, like Wi-Fi black hole or something while he's traveling back. But for our listeners who want to read up on Mihir's pieces, he's been churning out multiple pieces a day from the shooting, not just the shooting, from the Paris Olympics overall. And hopefully tomorrow, when India wins the first medal of Paris Olympics, he will be there to cover it. But yeah, that kind of gives me an opportunity to bring in Vinayakk a little bit. And Vinayakk, if you had to pick some of the top things that fans should look forward to on day 2 of Paris Olympics from an Indian perspective, what would that be?
Of course, yeah. Packed Sunday of action. Like we had already mentioned, Manu Bhakar is in the final of the 10-meter air pistol. 3 years after her heartbreak in Tokyo, she gets a chance to make amends. I mean, she's kind of already made amends by qualifying for the final, so that's a shot in her arm. So hopefully she goes better than, just qualifying for the final. If that happens, that would be a great moment. The other medal event potentially on Sunday is the women's archery team. Of course, archery and India have not been the best friends at Olympics for a long time now. So maybe we'll get a different story on Sunday. Possibly a very tough semi-final against South Korea is on the cards. But even if they lose that, I mean, of course, they have to win the quarterfinals first. But even if they lose the semis, there is a bronze medal match that they should be at least 50-50, if not outright favorites based on how the draws go. So there is an outside chance of a medal there, I wouldn't lie. It's kind of exciting to think about. So those are the 2 medal events. There are more shooting qualification events. The rifle shooters will get a chance to kind of make amends for the mixed team misses on Saturday. All 4 rifle shooters are in the qualification events in their 10-meter events. And then Sindhu, Nikat Zareen, group stage matches. Yeah, lots of table tennis, couple of tennis matches, some rowing also in repechage. So yeah, another packed day on the cards.
The repechage is India's favorite French word in a sense. Like सब जगह पे आ जाता है, we are very happy. We are
yeah, right. Not yet in rowing at least. Wrestling's repechage is favorites, but the rowing repechage is still new. So let's see what happens there. It's a different repechage as well. So yeah,
absolutely. But Vinayakk, like there is a very nice synchronicity in a sense for tomorrow that we have both our the flag bearers from the opening ceremony. Both of them have gotten a 1 day's rest and are now going to be itching to kind of do something when they play their opening rounds tomorrow. Obviously, you mentioned that Nikat Zareen is also going to be playing in her 50 kg round of 32 bout. She's got a very tough draw this time around, Vinayakk.
Yeah. There is a good piece by Shashank.
Shashank, yeah.
Our boxing guy on the website. It's worth looking at on why Nikat Zareen was actually unseeded. I mean, it just utterly bonkers. To me, I mean, that sport always confuses me in the ring and even outside the ring. I'm so confused as how a 2-time world champion could be unseeded.
I think, Vinayakk, I have a theory. This is going to sound slightly harebrained, but the reason why the sport is so confusing for everybody is that because all of the practitioners of the sport, all of the federation guys, take so many punches in their heads.
I saw where you were going. Oh man, yeah, that sport. Yeah.
Some jokes, some punchlines just write themselves. So kya kare? You just have to give in.
Nice punchline. I saw what you did there.
अरे यार अभी तुमने obvious बना दिया, but ठीक है. Thank you so much for the assist. But yeah, Vinayakk, before we end today's broadcast, was there anything today that kind of, I don't know, stood out for you away from maybe the Indian events?
Oh man, yeah, lots. So I'll not go into all the details, but you were running the international blog. You were coming up with all these tidbits on our international blog that we are running. But yeah, Nadal, Alcaraz, that was quite a sight to see them play doubles together. Yeah. I mean, idol, mentor and mentee, idol and protege, all that sort of narrative. They won their doubles match in straight sets. Then what they dubbed the race of the games, race of the century. So many hype words were used for the women's 400-meter freestyle. And Ariane Titmus of Australia produced such a dominant performance. It didn't feel like a race of the century, but it was probably the race of her life that she comfortably beat a very, very strong field. So that was quite something to watch. Plenty of badminton, no big upsets, at least from what I saw. Hockey, crazy matches in hockey, a 5-3 match involving Netherlands and South Africa that Netherlands won. Yeah, so much happening. And we have to mention the first medal went to Kazakhstan in the 10-meter mixed air rifle event, and in probably a parallel universe, in a multiverse, that could have been India. That's where I would like to stop.
Well, because Vinayakk has kind of painted such a grim picture, I would just like to tell you guys that at some point during these games, if you guys feel yourself being brought down by the sadness of what is happening to our athletes, so if you want to cheer yourself up, just go to the surfing stream. That event is happening somewhere in Tahiti. Absolutely gorgeous place. I spent half an hour of my break today between live blogs just watching the surfing events. Absolutely gorgeous, trust me. कुछ शायद आपको समझ में ना आए, but आपको कुछ समझने की जरूरत नहीं है वहां पे. That is just you wanting to do that because you want to do that. On that note, the first episode of Pod of the Rings comes to an close. Thank you guys for listening. He's not here with us right now, but thank you, Mihir, for joining us, taking a window out of your very hectic day. Vinayakk, as always, thank you so much for joining us. And our producer, Shashank, not a thank you to you, but an apology to you, because I know you told us like maybe 10 minutes pehle to wrap up this recording and we are still talking. But unfortunately, if you made us live blog for 16 hours straight, थोड़ा सा तो मतलब we watch too much sport यार, थोड़ा सा बनता है इतना बात करना. Well, on that note, the first episode of Pod of the Rings is in the can. We'll be back tomorrow, as we are going to be every day of the games, bringing you what's happened on that day, what's happening the next day, and everything else in the middle. I don't know if there is everything else in the middle, but we'll get it for you, if there is. Okay, thank you. Bye.
You were listening to Express Sports by the Indian Express. This week's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.